Right, hello, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for turning out on a sunny day and resisting the urge just to go to the beach, which I managed to resist it myself as well. I always think it's remarkable when teachers come along to these things after a hard day's work. To me it just shows what the thirst for good ideas, and I think that Michael Gove should come to lots of TeachMeets and see what's actually going on the ground. Digital Education Brighton, we organise these things. We're a not-for-profit organisation. We work with schools and other people involved in teaching and learning to help them in their involvement with digital technology and learning. We're a completely voluntary organisation. We do other projects. We're working with Sussex University, developing some learning environments. We're doing a thing called a Creative Cafe soon with a company called Culture Shift, which is in fact next week on 25th of March at Backer, and we're going to be doing another one at the STEM Ambassador Big Bang event, and we do various other things as well. These TeachMeets, very importantly, these TeachMeets cannot happen really with food and with drink and with technical support. This whole thing is being live streamed without some kindly people offering us some sponsorship. So I do just want to thank the sponsors, but I want to mention them as well. First of all, City College, because City College always allow us to use the premises free of charge, and Phil, who's skulking at the back there, does a fantastic job around all the technical stuff, and without all of that, it would be very difficult for us. Iris Connect, traditionally they've been involved in every TeachMeet we've organised. I think this is now our 5th one, and they offer sponsorship, but also Charlotte and others have always been very, very helpful in the organisation of things, so I'd like to thank them. We've got some new sponsors this time that we haven't had before. We've got the Student Room. I don't know if anybody knows, you know the Student Room, but it's a website. Yes, what's the name? Ben is right there if you want to talk to him about the Student Room. Just to say, my daughter last year completed her A-levels, and the Student Room was incredibly helpful for her, because if you're a student and doing A-levels and want to know how to write a personal statement and want to know about other universities, etc., it is all there in the Student Room. I think it's absolutely fantastic, worth looking at. We've also got Toshiba. Bob Harrison, who's the Toshiba Education Advisor, is very well known around the Twitter sphere around education and so on. He's a great guy. He sends his apologies. Unfortunately, he's been called to the Cayman Islands. Would have preferred to have been here naturally, but they've given us some sponsorship, and they've given us the goodie bags. So I hope you all enjoy your goodies. And also another sponsor is Brighton Hove Jobs. Brighton Hove Jobs love local jobs, loads and loads of different URLs. One of the things I want to mention that you might want to talk to them further about is a free IAG tool. Who knows what IAG is? Can you tell us what IAG is? Yes?
Yeah, information advice and guidance. So we've worked with a number of schools in Brighton and Hove and City Council to create a tool with young people. We've created it for young people to be used in the curriculum for careers IAG. So you want to talk to us about it?
Thank you, Georgina. So they're right there, and you know, this is addressing one of the huge issues for young people at the moment. Is regardless of their education, the detail of what happens within schools. The getting of jobs is an enormous problem, and Brighton Hove Jobs and the beach facilities is very helpful in that. I think that's all the sponsors mentioned. So we've got a new feature this time, which is called Bring and Brag, which Paul will explain to you. And without more ado, I'll pass you over to Paul, who will deal with all the housekeeping and matters thereafter. Thank you.
He doesn't deserve a clap. Oh, go on, give him a clap. Hello, those that don't know me, I'm Paul Platts. I By day, I'm the ICT consultant for the council, to the schools. I work at Westdean as well once a week, but I'm really here because I'm a member of DEV as well, and I'm going to be your MC for the evening. So before we start, because we're kind of purposely started a little bit late, I just want to run through how many people haven't been to a TeachMeet before. Oh, excellent. That's always good to see hands up that haven't been. Let me run through the rules if you don't know and how it kind of works. Firstly, it couldn't run without people doing this for us and turning up and doing presentations. As I said at one last week, if you think that something's missing, I knew I would say this, didn't I? It's important. If you think that something's missing from this evening, then you have the chance to do something about it next time, because you can stand up and you can present about something that you've done that's fantastic or inspiring, or that you just think is useful for to somebody else. And that's really how it works. Some of the things you're going to hear tonight are very much things that have been picked up from other TeachMeets, and that's what it's all about, really. Some of the rules, these are the bits that really kill me because it's so stressful, is the length of the presentations. We do have two presentation types. One is a micro presentation, which is 2 minutes, okay? And you see I emphasised the time there, that was 2 minutes. And the longer presentations are a maximum, okay, of 7 minutes. And I will repeat that again because it's stressful for me, a maximum of 7 minutes. If you go over, I will either shout at you or probably throw our resident seagull at you, okay? I will mention this, the first time I did this, someone did catch it and throw it back, which wasn't good for my manliness or my reputation. So if you don't stop, I will stop you this time. But that's the only kind of formal rules as such, really, because the whole point of this is that it is informal and we do enjoy ourselves because it's your time. The new feature, Bring and Brag, is basically, if you want to, you will have 2 chances for this tonight. If you just want to say something, stand up and say something that you do in your classroom, in your job, that you think would be useful, we don't want you to kind of do a whole presentation. Just say what you do, because then somebody could grab you during the breaks or afterwards and talk to you about it. So we're going to have 2 times when we do that, and I'll tell you when they are. Yes, you need to be brave to do that, but trust me, it's a great thing, and you'll feel really good for passing on the love. Okay. So I've only had half the beer, and you can tell, can't you? Whoa, yeah. Okay, so that's about it, really. The toilets are down the stairs. We don't think there's going to be any fires. We're not planning on anything like that. Okay. There is Wi-Fi, and you should see the password up there. You can follow the Twitter feed, which will be popping up here, and please do tweet yourself. And the hashtag is #TMBTON. And I find that really useful because I kind of make notes for myself using Twitter, and I can go back and look at them later on. I think that's about it. So I think the first presentation is from Dan.
I'm not sure why my face keeps popping up. I'll put it down to genius marketing if it keeps happening through the night. Evening. Right, let me just find my presentation. There is lots of me on here. Awesome. Right. Let's play. Okay, Skype and Google Hangouts. I'm not going to tell you about the 2, just how we've used them recently. It's a 2-minute one, isn't it, Paul? I've got 2 minutes. Yeah. So who am I? I'm Dan Axon, and I work at St John's School and, well, college mainly, but we are a school and a college. And if you want to find out more information, go to the website. So why am I talking about communication technology, Skype and Google Hangouts? We were part of a JISC funded project which looked at communication technology. That's the website as a result of the project. And we were woefully underprepared to work with modern technologies. We had terrible broadband, we didn't have any Wi-Fi, but we do now. So we started to use it, which is exciting. So the first thing we did was Safer Internet Day, which was a few weeks ago. I'm sure you all know about it. We've got the school, we've got the college, and we have me, because our ICT school teacher was off sick on that day, which was great. And we had 20 minutes to try and present all the information that the learners had created over a term and a half. So instead of going across both sites, we did a live Google Hangout. That's one of our learners presenting a remote Prezi across as well. So we were really, giving our broadband a run for its money. And we followed that up with a Socrative quiz at the end, and lots of screen sharing of websites and photos that they all created and videos. And it went okay. It was a good experiment, and that's what we got from it. So yeah, it was quite good, and it's all possible, it works quite well. I didn't know about the remote pressing until we tried it and went on, but it works really well, so I recommend giving that a go if you need to work across 2 sites at the same time. And the other thing we did, so that was Google Hangouts. Skype, we did London Zoo. This is Rachel from London Zoo, and she kindly put us in touch with Jeff, the giraffe keeper, who sat with us for about half an hour and just answered all our questions, including where does SpongeBob SquarePants live? He didn't know, but he does now, which is... Yes.
The best things I've ever seen. Genevieve, who's not here yet, showed that act at TeachMeet with the backer about 2 years ago.
I did at City College in September.
Okay.
It's the only time I've done it.
Really? Oh, that's a shame, because it is one of the best tools I've ever seen, and it's free. So if you get a chance to check it out, have a look at Socrative. What did it do? It's like a student response system. It's platform agnostic as well. It's very, very simple to use. So if you've got a mixed environment of iPhones, Android devices, computers, laptops, it'll work on all of them.
You can race rockets.
And you can race rockets, yeah. So do check it out. It's really, really good. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Up next is Neil talking about the Raspberry Pi.
Right, fine presentation. That one. Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon. That's me. Really, that's the only information you need. Don't need to take notes, because I will put this online later so you can grab the presentation and all of the links, because there are a few. That's what I do for a living. You'll notice I'm not a teacher, sorry. But I run hack days, I teach teachers, I run workshops. I'm also a STEMnet ambassador, so I go into schools and enthuse about why kids should learn technology and science and do that as a career. I'm also responsible for running a number of events around the Raspberry Pi called Raspberry Jams. So, okay, what am I here to talk about? Oh, this hasn't got the right font on there, it's much better at home. So the title of my presentation is Doing Shit with the Raspberry Pi. And as it says there, thank you to Mark Scott on Twitter who came up with the title. The reason being is he said it's not computing, it's not computer science, it's not coding, it's not programming, it's just, the subject should just be called Doing Shit with a Computer. Because that's what you want the kids to do, right? So that's where it comes from, and it looked much better in a different font. Anyway, enough of that. So, the Raspberry Pi, for those of you that have been living in a cave and haven't seen BBC News in the last 2 years, is one of these. It's a credit card sized, programmable, general purpose computer, which is equivalent to a modern smartphone. Has the same kind of chip in it. The only difference is it's got loads of ports on the outside instead of one of them poncy screens. And it's great. It's cheap, it's relatively indestructible, and they're great tools for doing interesting stuff on. They're not necessarily the world's greatest thing for just learning programming on. If you want to teach Python, use a normal PC. But if you want to do interesting things, then use a Raspberry Pi, and that's what this is about. Some of you will have seen some of this before if you've been to one of my other presentations. I apologise. I just recycle material, it's the quickest way. So, what can you do with the Raspberry Pi? What shit can you do? You can learn about electronics. So, what we have here are some very simple examples. Top left, we have a plant monitoring system built, designed and coded by some Year 5 pupils from St Mary's C.V. Primary School in Horsham as part of the PA consulting competition. They did this, they also did a recycling robot. The water monitor didn't get through to the finals, but the recycling robot did, so we're off to the Science Museum. Woot! Hopefully we'll win, that'd be really cool. And it's a simple solderless project, there's no soldering involved, it was all just plugged into a breadboard with a couple of specialist monitor sensors for the water, and basically it lights up LEDs depending on how wet you've made your plant. So it tells you whether or not you need to water it or whether or not you've overwatered it. But again, I think the total cost of the components was about £30. So, it's a great project. Then you've got the Air Pi, which was a winner from a competition last year and was actually turned into a Kickstarter project. But again, it's a weather station. So whether it's an air pollution and weather station monitoring, are all plugged into a Raspberry Pi, and they have got all of their information online, and you can build this for yourself and build your own weather station. So, again, not for stupid amounts of money, you can have something that will sense weather and air quality, and you can feed that all back and have a look at it. So these are all kind of cross-curricular as well. It's not just about doing these in ICT lessons. And then the bottom one is a parking sensor. I've actually got demonstrations out running on over the table. I built these for Brighton Science Festival, where I ran some 1-hour workshops for them. And basically it's got an ultrasonic sensor and some LEDs. And as you get further or closer away, it tells you whether or not you're going to smack the wheelie bin. So it's exactly the same as the system that would be in the back of the car, except it's all built on a breadboard for about £8. So again, very cheap, no soldering, it's all just plug-in wires, great for young kids and older kids to get a first experience of plugging components in and making them work. And in this case, it's input and output. So not only do they see the sensor, but they also see the response with the LEDs. And it's much quieter if you use LEDs. You can do it with the sound generator, but a classroom with those will go and beep, beep, beep at the same time and do your heading. Right, next up, robotics on the cheap. Again, top left, very cheap chassis onto which you can actually use either a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino, for anybody who knows what one of those is. And you can build a fully autonomous robot, about 15 quid for that kit. The one in the middle is a robot that's powered by Scratch. It's actually driven by Scratch. So it's not even using Python or anything like that. It uses Scratch. Again, it's a project where you just plug it all in and away it goes. And then the very bottom one, bottom right, this is actually, I found out about this afternoon, so I had to edit my presentation in the cafe before I came here. This is a £28 kit that's just been kick-started or Indiegogo'd, and again, it's a complete robot kit. I think it even includes the battery. I think the only thing it doesn't include is the Raspberry Pi, but it's a £28. So this is an 18-year-old lad that's built this, and he's selling these. He's trying to raise £1,000 to put them into production. And I mean, again, it's a great. Once you've got a Raspberry Pi on there, it's completely programmable. You can do whatever you like with it. So you can build autonomous robots, and you've got the beauty that you can plug all the normal sensors in, all the extra sensors. So yes, you start with a simple robot. You want to put GPS on it, you can. If you want to put ultrasonic sensors so it doesn't run into things, you can. But it's a great building block, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be the £300 for a Mindstorms kit. Saying Mindstorms, you can do more with Mindstorms. You can have spent 300 quid on a Mindstorms kit. Buy a brick Pi. It's a £60 add-on board for the Raspberry Pi that allows you to use Mindstorms plug-in components, so motors and sensors and all sorts of the bits that come in a Mindstorm box. But rather than having the NXT or the EV3 brick, you have a Raspberry Pi. So again, you have the full power of a programmable computer that you can then do interesting things with. So you can control it wirelessly. You can have it send data back to another computer or the web. We actually played with this recently with a hack with the Met Office. We were building a robot that was controlled by the weather, which you can't do with an EV3 brick. You can't have it suck data from the Met Office and decide whether or not it's raining, but we could with this. So again, if you've got Mindstorms and you want to push kids, great way of pushing kids to do more with Mindstorms, and it just sits on top. It could be battery powered or it could be mains powered, and you've got the full. And I've got a sample over there. It's not powered up, unfortunately, because getting it to work on the Wi-Fi is complicated here. But you can actually have a look at the quality of the component. It comes with that nice acrylic case that you see there, and what you just plug Lego into it, so it just sits in the middle of a Mindstorms. You can make music with a Raspberry Pi. Oh, I think I'm going to get Seagold. I'm going to get Seagold. Right, okay, Raspberry Pi music, great, done that one. You can take pictures, stick it under some balloons, fly it around, take some pictures, pretend you're doing up. You can do clever stuff in Minecraft. Want to know more? Buy these two books. No, I don't make any money. No, there's no affiliate links, but they're the two best books for the Raspberry Pi, especially the one on the left, it's written by a teacher. Useful resources. And lastly, if this actually works, you can even put a bear in space and drop it from 40,000 metres and go higher than the Red Bull Strasser's project did. And it says questions, but I've run out of time, so I don't get to ask questions. And as I said, everything will be on my website. Thank you very much.
Neil's bought some stuff with him as well, and I'm sure during the break we can have a chat with him about the stuff he's bought and the things he couldn't show up here. Okay, this is the first of the bring and brags. So let's see if anyone's brave enough to let it all go and share something. Anyone? Oh, well done. You did a presentation, haven't you?
Yeah, but this is, I've got one of those makey and with my little Key Stage 1 children, we made a fruit piano. I really would recommend it.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you for doing that. And Jane can present later on, but you can talk. Are you staying around for the whole?
No,
Okay. So there's no point talking to Jane because she won't be here. Okay. Anybody else? There's another time later on. It just has to be anything. Just one quick thing you might want to share with somebody. Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Georgia. I used to work for the enterprise. I don't work for the law. I'm a teacher, but I'm passionate to work with kids and linking education and business is something that I get to do in my job every single day. More often in the school than in my office. About exciting stuff that I do.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have a chance to bring a brag a little bit later on. Okay, the next presentation is from Donna. Well, it's because you're on the list, that's why.
Do they not use random generator?
No. And you, everyone.
Right, what I'm hoping is that Paul doesn't time me from right now. Because unlike the other presenters, I was not organised enough to read the agenda and see when I was presenting. Paul, this doesn't look as though it's going to go. I know. That'd be really, really upsetting. I'll change it tomorrow. Right, it may take me a couple of minutes just to find this, but my name is Donna Comerford. I'm currently working at Dorothy Stringer and speaking with quite a few people recently. I'm a spy teacher. I'm on long-term supply because I like to do other things in my spare time. What I am going to talk to you about this afternoon is some of the things that we've been doing in Eastbourne schools where I've been, and we've started to do at Dorothy Stringer as well, if I can remember what the presentation is called. Sorry? It is, but it depends where it's sitting. I'll just sing and entertain you while I'm finding this. Yeah, definitely. Any requests? Jazz, I think, a bit laid back. Don't know any of the words. Okay. Now, what I will probably find is that this presentation has got some of what I want in it, but not all. But as I've only got 7 minutes and I like to make a point of sticking to 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry? Not clean ones. Alright, no, I think I'm going to have to use my machine. Would be alright.
Just do a quick poll. Who's looking forward to the new curriculum? I've just got any curriculum. I don't really mind actually. I just got to check it out there. The gardening curriculum of the computing curriculum. All prepared for that now? Okay.
Yeah.
This is where the informal nature of the evening is official.
Good. Yeah, we could chat. But we did that before we were doing the whole mix thing. This is turning into a bit of an open mic thing. Anybody else want to come up here?
Why did you talk?
It's not sending out. Okay.
So you've got 4 minutes left.
I knew you'd do this.
You got me off then.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. I can't see my screen and I can't see everything like that. That was too easy. I'm so sorry that you've got to go through this whole finding my phone. Good.
It's going to be so amazing.
It will. It really will. Where are we? Should be in there. There we go. Oh, that one will do. Yeah, that works. We've got about 3 of these. Now, I'm noting the time, 17:22. Oh, cool. Okay. As I said, my name's Donna Comfort. I've been in and out of a few schools in East Sussex and West Sussex a lot. I like to change things up a bit and find different sort of arenas to try things out. And one of the things I've done over the last sort of year is I've come to TeachMeet and met some fabulous people and talked about the things that I've been doing in my classroom and things that I've discovered while I've done those. And postcards from the South Coast was something I did at bed. I went to bed and said, look, I've been talking about doing these and this is what I've done. So, it's said to people, as teachers, we could work with a lot of outside agencies. Sometimes we don't have the time to talk to a lot of agencies or individuals and bring them in to enrich what we do in the classroom. But I found that just talking to a lot of people about some of the things that I was doing in my classroom brought some of these people into my room and helped me sort of widen out what I was doing for the children. I'm going to go on. I spoke with Isilda Imelda Harvey, who is the learning person for the Keep Brighton. They just moved from Lewes Castle to a purpose-built building, and Imelda came into my room and she bought copies of documents from the archives, and we said to the children, we don't mind what you do whilst you create something that would encourage young people to come to the archives. So they decided they would do some films. Some little girls said, we want to make a fashion show film which will highlight the fashions that are contained in all the films that are held in the archive. I said, yeah, great, go for your lives. And some of the boys said, we want to make a game, we want to make a stop motion thing. So there were a whole range of things that the children thought that they would make based on this, just make something to encourage people to come to the archives. That was just one of the projects, and what I found was the children did beautiful work when they had the time and the freedom to run their projects themselves. BAFTA Games design, that is fabulous, I love it. It's BAFTA, every year they open up a games design competition, or the games prototype this year, where they say, here are the resources to run these lessons for 6 weeks. What we found was the lessons actually take 12 weeks or a bit more to deliver. They are quite intense, but they are beautiful because you're talking about PEGI ratings, you're talking about the backstory of the characters that the children create. And once again, the children would come into the room early for lessons, they come in at break time, they come in at lunchtime, and all of this was their choice. I didn't say, well, you must come and do this. They said, oh, we want to work on a game, we want to do this, and they created beautiful, beautiful plans. And while they were doing that, I said, well, look, they're working on this, and they're taking the time to create these beautiful things. What if we just left them at it? So they actually spent about 8 months working on their games. And we just fitted in all the other assessment criteria around it. We said, all right, fine, to be able to communicate well at level 5, you just need to email your friends in the room and comment on a blog. We were part of a quad blog as well. And we did Skype meetings with Isilda from the Keep, because she couldn't always come in if they had a problem. So they were working at much higher levels than we previously expected of Year 7 children. So all that via a project. I think, these were the dates for the various competitions. This is my personal favourite. Young Rewired State is a competition, or rather it's an event that happens every summer, and I've sent students to Young Rewired State from school, and I was the centre lead last year, and some of my kids from school came. 1 week in August, it's free. The only sort of thing that's going to cost you is your time. And if you can recruit mentors, coders, programmers, enthusiastic people to come and support you, the kids love it and they gain a lot from it. Lots of team working, they meet people they didn't already know. And they are, at the end of the week, we go to London, or this year it's going to be the creative and tech industry in Eastbourne, and help the kids to understand that there are jobs for them out in the creative industries, programming, graphic design, web design, app making, all those things that you're looking at them and saying, these are new jobs, but how do they know about these? So this project now is Connected Culture, and I've got a group of students at Dorothy Stringer, who are my hamsters. I said, would you mind helping me? And they said, yeah, we'll be your hamsters. And I said, wrong rodent, but I love it. So they're now the hamsters. I'm going to cut it short there. And if anyone's got any questions, please do ask. Talk to me later. I'll be around probably until about 7 o'clock. But thank you very much for listening.
Any questions for Donna whilst we swap over?
Cool.
Thank you.
Just to say, for those of you who didn't, I sent out the sort of a general order of play, but a lot of people haven't got it. I suspect it's probably because I can't get it through the schools or whatever. So Phil's just printing a few off now, so there'll be a few for you to kind of share between you all. I do apologise. I thought I was very clever by sending them to you and not printing them out. It's all gone horribly wrong. But let's see if we can put it right.
I haven't actually tested whether my actual thing's going to work, but I just thought I'll send it. I'll put it on auto, never a good idea. Right, okay, so I'm going to talk about the project that I'm doing. So, prior to setting up Ready Software Code, I was a teacher at Dorothy Stringer and Sussex Downs, teaching computing and software development games design. And then, unfortunately, due to FE funding, I no longer had a job. That kind of puts things into perspective, and you think, I may as well kind of kickstart what I'm actually doing anyway and try and get a tiny bit of money for it. So I've done some Hangouts and a few kind of talks with Google, and then I've done some other things as well. Like these are the things that I'd done prior to setting up Ready Software Code. And then from there, they suggested that I apply for one of their global Rise Awards for the dance project that I'm doing. And I found out in December that I was actually one of the 42 people who got one, which is really exciting. And I found out this week if I've actually got the funding from the Arts Council as well. So fingers crossed on that one. So basically, the Art of Computer Science is a classical ballet data visualization of the new computing curriculum. Sounds a little bit more scary than it actually is. For some reason it's not loading, so I'm just typing now. So basically one of the things that we're looking at is the technology we're going to use to create the actual visualizations. So the two elements of it, one of them is data logging, and I don't know if you mentioned the ultrasonic Raspberry Pi. Okay, so basically part of that is to show you how you can use your Raspberry Pi as a data logger in the classroom, which is why we developed it. And then that's also leading on to using the Arduino like a normal data logger, and then also the wearable ones, which you can kind of see here. And then, here we go, great. So, and that's so that we can, when they move, so they'll interact with the actual technology they're using, but they'll also interact with the data that's being sent from the Connect or from actually one of the wearable Arduinos. So had a little bit of an issue because the whole of the UK is out of Velostat, which is what you need to make pressure switches, because we're actually putting them inside the point shoes, so when they go up on point, the costumes light up. When they come off, they don't. So obviously that's representing binary. And then we're looking at also things like De Morgan's law, which is like a really, is how kind of microchip designs are used in sort of logic gates. And then the other thing we're looking at is kind of loops and for loops. So they learn themselves quite well to classical ballet. It's very algorithmic in design. And also it was one of the things that most people aren't doing is actually using classical ballet with technology. And also the difference is that the dance is actually representing the actual theory as well. So it's a little bit more challenging on how do you actually interpret De Morgan's law in dance, but we're going to have a go at doing that. So that's a live performance at the, I think it's now called the Studio Theatre, as was the Pavilion Theatre for us old Brightonians. And that's looking at being in the middle of the Brighton Digital Festival in September. So one of the other things is that we are part of the whole process, which is what I got the funding for, is actually to offer workshops for teachers. So one of them will be doing the ultrasonic sensor, there'll be another one on the wearable technology,
And then later on, probably after the event, will be how we use JavaScript for data visualization. Mainly because it's a little bit more complex and we need to break it down. So as part of my rivalry, just to rub it in and make you feel really jealous, I get to go to San Francisco. What a shame. No, but the really good thing is I actually get to meet the guy that's developed Blockly, and he's going to see if we can actually take what I'm doing and actually create a little mini kind of new blocks for it, which is really good. Everything that we do is open source. So all of the data will be available, all of the code will be available, and also on this, there is, she says, so there's a website that we're building, and this is once it's open, so it's very kind of playful way of looking at the project. So you click on sensor, then you click on the type of sensor that you might want, and then you go let's play, and then each of the projects that we develop will be available as a lesson plan, probably as a PDF attached for the ones that look like Ofsted, but then you've got like a kind of how to normally do it with a little video and things like that. And also links to the curriculum, both here in the US and also in, that's fine, I finished that bit anyway. As you can see, I've got a bit thing about Lego. And basically from that you'll be able to click on it and go through all the projects, including how we did the point shoes, how we did the ultrasonic sensor, to some of the other stuff that we're doing as well. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff. Bear with me. So for example, we're using Greenfoot as one of the things. I also have a specific developer who's actually done a piece of code for me that allows you to track all of the bodies in front of a Connect and take that file and turn it into JSON, which is how sort of JavaScript objects are used. So if you do a little bit of data, you can pump it through, and then you can do lots of nice fancy things with it. So I've modified this kind of setup, so I only have to type Connect server, because otherwise it's like a massive long process. You can install this, it's on the Greenfoot website, it shows you how to do it, it's really, really easy. Yeah, don't worry about all of that stuff. There's like 1,000,001 warnings. And you know what it is? It's because I'm turning the power on. See, there you go. Done. And then eventually it'll go, oh my god, this is so fun. Trying to find it. There's another thing as well when you're doing this. On some of them, for example, it doesn't work on all Connects. It only works on model 1414 with this old version of the Connect server. That's something to note when you buy them off eBay. Just so, because I've actually found that out and the one I bought didn't work. Luckily, my son said I could use his. So, fingers crossed, we're going to work. It's saying it's not connected. You can see it's working. Right. Okay, I tested this at home before it came out. I didn't work. Oh, it's not going to work. But anyway, I'll show you Greenfoot, and you can imagine it. Okay. So basically, normally what happens when you stand in front of the Connect, it'll pick you up as a camera image and take all of the background away from you, so it only picks up your body area. And as you can see, it doesn't, it just has falling balls, and then you can catch them and things like that. Then there's, so that's one of the things that's quite useful you could actually use, and obviously you can see live demos never really work. Thank you very much.
Right, I've got a few printouts now, so there we are. If you can share them between you, that would be great. I've only got a limited amount because I'm concerned about the trees.
I'm a stage 1 teacher. We don't do really quite as exciting things.
Trees around here?
Thank you. It's very scary being here, isn't it?
No.
Hello.
Not scary.
It's not scary at all. Oh, you've changed your password. I don't want to change my password. Try again. If it doesn't, I'll just make it up. Daily submission. Oh, it's not going to work, is it? Nick?
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard you can try on to mine. So you've got questions if you do it. Do you know your Gmail? You've got a Gmail, I don't think. I can talk about it anyway. Mine's really, really simple. I work in Key Stage 1, so I'm teaching like tiny children, and we have to go at putting in the new curriculum over the last few years. And I've really got just a couple of hints and tips. The first thing is, if there's no algorithm, there's probably not coding. We've had teachers who've been teaching the new curriculum and teaching coding theoretically, but if you actually look at what the children have done, there's no algorithm, because all they've done is a bit of digital literacy. But they've all had great fun, they've all created lots of lovely backgrounds and done things, but they've not actually done any coding. So if there's no algorithm, probably no coding. So that's my first thing. And the way that we work now, the way that we've really helped, or the way I've tried to help teachers think about that is through the use of whiteboards. And I don't mean anything fancy like this. I mean actual physical whiteboards, little tiny ones and pens. So we've bought a stack of them for our ICT suite. And there's that. There you go. That's the other thing I've done. Hello. So I asked myself, where is the algorithm? And mini whiteboards are our best buy. So next one, please.
Do you want to just click on it?
I think you do kind of yeah, that you can do. I think you can view it as well.
It's underneath that one at the top. Yeah, yellow bar.
So get rid of dismiss there. And then you do present. That's what we're doing. Putting things together.
Try that. That's likely, isn't it?
Woohoo! Is it? Oh, look. And then do next. I just click.
Oh, why are you man now?
You're a man now. Got you. So, the other thing we thought about is tinkering. Our kids, particularly in reception, they tinker, and then they continue to tinker. But again, what was happening was they were just tinkering, and there was no purposeful programming. And so the thing that again became what made the difference was the good old whiteboards. Because if they can actually show their algorithm as to what they're going to program, it became purposeful programming.
She go there.
So
She
we
needs
went
to go
from
where you are.
tinkering, so we
Otherwise she's in
go
the dark.
finding out about syntax, see how it all works together, to purposeful programming because of these whiteboards. And we also got this thing about with the whiteboard, you're the algorithm designer, or you're just the person with the hat when you've got the whiteboard and you know that that's an algorithm, and you give it to your friend who's got programmer glasses on, and then they do the programming. So it's given a real clear distinction for the...
Sorry, can I just get...
Oh.
You're going to have to come around it. I'm sorry. Well, it's been live streamed, it's been recorded, so...
No, it's not.
No.
So,
Got the audio.
algorithm designer to programmer, but the key thing was the good old whiteboards, nice and cheerful. Next slide. There you go. And that's what I said before was what actually was happening was there was lots of lovely things going on, but it was all digital literacy. But the teachers themselves didn't understand it. We're at 8th form entry school, so there's a lot of teachers who are doing this. And it was only when you went, oh, have they got any algorithms? Have they written it on their whiteboard? They went, well, not really, because all they've got is a ballerina going up and down. So we've changed now to being much clearer about there needs to be an algorithm first, and then there's a program. And we've actually gone back to basics, so we've gone back more to floor turtle type graphics at the end of Key Stage 1. So, this is a summary. Where is the algorithm? This year, for my teachers, it's more about, for them, for CPD, it's a greater focus on algorithms. We're teaching in reception now the alligator algorithm chance, which I'll get you all to do in a minute, if you've not already done it. There's this distinction between algorithms and programs. So you've got to have your hat on to make your algorithm, your glasses to do your program. Whiteboards first. We've gone back to B-bots because I did try ProBots in year 1 and it didn't work. So we've gone back to B-bots in year 1, again with the algorithm. And we're doing Scratch in year 2, and we've gone back to drawing shapes rather than a kind of a bigger project. And for teachers, it's them having a better idea about progression, what progression is, and it's about sequence, then loops, then ifs, whereas before they were just getting them to design even nicer backgrounds. So you can all stand up now. Come on! Stand up! You've got to do this. Because if you're 4, you can do it, so you're probably alright. And you say alligator algorithm. Alligator algorithm. So you've got to put your hands on your hips. And you've got to go step, step, step. She's very, very bossy. You've got to look at her attitude. She's very, very bossy. But she gets things done. There you go. And that then, if your little kids can say that at the end of Key Stage 1, they get a big tick and a kiss. And that's you.
Thank you. Any questions? There are. It's okay, go on.
Do you ever use logo instead of Scratch for the drawing on the screen?
Could do, oh, sorry. No, you carry on and with this. You could. Yeah, you could do. The only reason we use Scratch was it gives us an opportunity to then move it a bit further. So when my little ones, they kind of managed to fly their rocket around the planet, then they flew a snowman around a snowflake, and then they made different shapes. And then when we did rainforests, they made a frog go around a jaguar. So all that was happening was that they were just having more fun because it was very visual. And then they started to look at some Scratch things that had been made by other children that were all about deforestation. So they understood the background and syntax, and then it meant that they could go a bit further. So it gave them an opportunity for progression. So yeah, you're going to read mine up.
Yes, thank you. We do presentation. I took a photograph of that, and I don't want to embarrass you at the moment. I will tweet it after the break if nobody comes to me and says, please don't tweet that picture. I don't want to say too much. Anybody in the room doesn't want that picture to go out, because that puts you on the spot. So if you, for whatever reason, don't want that picture to go out, you shouldn't really ask that question tonight. No? Come and see me during the break, okay? Off we go.
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm Laura Kelsey. I'm a teacher at Balfour. I'm ICT/Computing, I suppose, now coordinator as well. I'm just going to talk to you very quickly about Lego Redo, which we use mostly in Year 2 and Year 3, although you can use it further up school or lower down as well, because you can use Scratch to program the models you make as well. So my digital leaders were doing some fun things with motion detectors on Monday with it. More about that later. So what is it first, and then I'm going to talk about what you can do with it. So, what's in the pack that you buy? You get software, which allows you to program, it's drag and drop, very simple programming, the models that you make. You get a lovely kit with all the Lego bricks and motors and USB ports, etc.
and some lovely little Lego characters too. And you get an activity pack, which is really great because it's got all your lesson plans in it as well. So if you're feeling a little bit unconfident, it can be really, really useful. So it comes with a CD-ROM. The software looks like this, so it's got all the components in it. It's really good for cross-curricular stuff, especially to do with DT and some science stuff as well. And you can build these are the set kind of models you can build. They each kind of do different things, but you can also, I always start off with that and then get them to create something of their own, which I kind of set them a problem for, and they've got to create something that will solve the problem. But these are great because it takes them step by step on how to make them first, so if they're feeling a little bit nervous, it's a really good intro. And the more able get on with it really quickly and can move on. There's teacher's guides, which is really great for people who are maybe not so confident, including really clear lesson plans with the objectives for each area that will cover. And you can see there's like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, language, as well as computing. And it also shows you where it's covering different things as well, which is great for your overviews. So it's really good because you can work together. We bought a class set, so you have 16, which is a nice number. Yeah, a bit too much, I didn't really understand what he was doing. But it's really... it was fun, I let him get on with it and told him to save it so I can use it later for myself, that's great. It's really easy because it's just drag and drop. You've got the big play button and then it's very self-explanatory, but if you hover over it, it also explains what it does. And they can fiddle around and see what you plug it in and it can move their model, so the motor will make the motor turn. There's like light sensors, motion sensors, so you've got like a crocodile you can build that if you put your hand in front of it, it snaps its mouth closed, so it's really exciting. And there's a guy who plays football, tries to score a goal. Important thing that everyone's thinking about new curriculum, how does this link? Well, these are the two key stages. I'll just go into key stage one quickly. So Jamie's talking about algorithms. It's again a really, really good way to do it because they can plan out exactly what they want their model to do, write it down on whiteboards, give you an idea, and then work out how to program it to do it. And you've got the differentiation in there because you can use the really simple Lego program that you come with, or you can get the more able maybe to try and do it in Scratch, which is a little bit more complicated. Also, it's great because they can play and they won't break it. So it's really good about debugging, so you can set them up. Well, this is a line of code that I've tried to use. What's wrong with it? What have I got that's not making it work? So that debugging is great. And Key Stage 2, so similar again, like breaking it up. You can push it on further. I mean, I haven't used it for further up school in lessons yet, but I can see how you could with the, because you do it, don't you, Genevieve? You've used.
I use it at A-level.
Yeah, there you go. A-level. Same media kit. So yeah, I mean, it can go across the school. I just really like it. Of course, it's Lego, so it is expensive. It's not quite as cheap as the Raspberry Pi stuff. But they love Lego, and it's really enthusiastic. They're really enthusiastic about it. Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Any questions?
Can't believe that. It's not cheap. Not that I've seen. I think it was about, we bought the class pack, I think it was about just over £1,000. Yeah, so for 16 packs, but it is expensive. And the problem is, another problem about it, they used a little bit. Yeah, because if you go with the whole class in the ICT suite, they just, however much you shout at them to keep it together, it's not very good. You need to get Lego to sponsor.
Lego is notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before we go to the break, I've got a fantastic person who's asked me if he could do a room break. So please.
Can I just check that? Is it alright if we do a quick 30-second quick one? I'm not a teacher, not yet, but I think I'm on my way, and I want to brag about two things. I'm a television journalist by profession. I work on South East Today, one of the newsreaders and presenters there. But I stopped doing that 3 days a week and I now run a small business going into, I don't even know how to use a microphone. Oh, right. Going into schools with workshops about how television news actually works, deadlines, headlines, sifting information, literacy, that sort of thing. But I'm bragging now about the fact that I feel by being in schools, I'm beginning to become a teacher, and that's something I've actually wanted to do for about 20 years, and it's thrilling for me, and I can't tell you how much I admire what I'm learning here and seeing here tonight. And also, I was just at the school today, I want to brag about this, a tweet from a student who says, "Thank you, you've inspired me to take on media to help with my future decisions." That's something I do want to brag about. But above all, I know this isn't about sales pitches, but I wanted to know how pleased I am to count myself amongst you tonight. I've got to go. I was meant to go 45 minutes ago, but I've been intrigued, which is why I've stayed. I hope to stay a few more minutes. I'm still a businessman, so I'll leave a few leaflets if I can, but thank you for having me here, and on you go with the great work.
Okay, thank you. One of the reasons we're tight on time is at 7 o'clock, Matt Easterman, who has woken up, is in Australia and will be presenting to us. He's done one to us before, which was really, really good. It's worth kind of hanging around for, but I don't want to miss him. I don't want him nodding off at any point. I don't want any of you nodding off at any point. So next presentation is going to be, I've moved things around a little bit, so when you eventually manage to get an agenda, forget that because it's all different now. Will, who I work with at West Dean, is going to come and do a presentation.
Okay, hello everyone. My name's Will, as Paul said. I work at West Dean Primary. I'm a computing coordinator there and a Year 3 teacher. And I'm now a CAS master teacher, computing at school master teacher for Sussex. Primary version, and Genevieve is the secondary version. So we've now got 2 in our city. So that's nice. It sounds much grander than it is. Okay, so I'm talking today about a concept or an idea. So this is something you're perfectly allowed to go away from and think, no, that was a load of crap. It's just an idea really, but it's something we've been trying at West Dean, or something I've tried in my class and seems to be working quite well. So, in the beginning, I received some Raspberry Pis. Not that long ago, after I signed up for some Raspberry Pi, we were handing out some free ones for schools. They sat in my room for a really long time unused until I finally got some hardware together and got them plugged in. But of course then I thought, well, how am I going to use these? Because Raspberry Pis can be quite complicated at first if you're not too used to them. And so I developed the idea of casual coding, which is this idea of giving children access to programming without the teacher having to teach it, without the teacher having to much themselves. So it's supposed to be a stress-free, unrestricted access to programming resources for children, aka coding through play. Of course, we talk in reception in the early years about children learning through play, and the second they step into year 1, no more. It's all sit down, do this, rote learning pretty much, and they forget about the fact that children actually learn more from not having you talking in their ear and actually sitting with each other, and like Jane said, working together on stuff without some adult telling them what to do. So coding through play is the sort of more child-friendly title for it. So who's it for? It's aimed at anyone with an interest in computers or computer science who probably at the moment, I know this with some coordinators and especially teachers who are not computer literate, who are a bit concerned about the new curriculum and thinking, oh, I don't know much about programming at all. Well, it doesn't rely on a huge amount of knowledge, just enough to get stuff set up. For teachers, it's low stress because, like I said, you're not required to really teach anything. And for children, it's a chance to learn through exploration, which is what they love to do the most. And that, for a lot of programmers, is what programming is. And that's how they would have learned themselves, or at least that's how I learned to program and build websites and things, just through playing around. So what do you need to do it? You just need access to programming toys or technology, so things like Bebops, Pixies, Raspberry Pis, Big Track, computers with programming software on them, or access to the internet, because there's plenty of online stuff, and I'll talk about some of those in a minute. Or tablet computers, and I stress tablet because I want to be really universal, any tablet that can access apps and things like that as well.
So where it's worked in, what I've been doing in my class is I set up 2 Raspberry Pi computers. They're not connected to the internet at the moment, but they will be soon, thanks to Neil's advice. And they run, they've got Minecraft on them, they've got the usual stuff that comes with one of the systems that I put onto it. And so basically wet play, golden time, anytime there's free time, play times for certain children, I'll say, and as a reward I'll say, okay, you could go on the computer. And basically they get on it. We've talked about what Raspberry Pis are, so they've got an understanding that it is a computer, but a very basic computer that they can take a lot more control of. And they just play on it, basically. Within about 5 minutes of one of the children discovering Scratch for themselves, they'd already worked out how to create their own sprite, edit their sprite, change the way it looks, and done some basic coding. That's 5 minutes with no input. They'd never used it before. And so that made me think, like, my goodness, like if they pick it up like that, we're going to have some really worried teachers who are trying to teach programming with children who are way beyond the teachers already in just their ability to kind of work this stuff out. In terms of what you need, I'll talk about the 3 main areas. So computer program-wise, you've got Scratch, which is like the thing that everyone keeps talking about. It's not the only one though, so let's keep the mix going. We've got Kodu, we've got Code.org, which is an American organisation, very good, and then Code Academy, plus many, many others. For tablets, we've got things like Daisy Bedino, Bebop, Hopscotch, Alex, and Lightbot, which again all involve programming in some way. I'll post a link to this slide later on so that you can have a look at these with more time. And then not forget the offline stuff, so the physical programming as well. It doesn't always have to be on a computer, that is the problem. Loads of children will think ICT or computer lessons, we've got to get down to the suite. So don't forget your robots, your Rollers, Pixies, Bebots, Big Track, the WeDo, which we heard about earlier, so thank you for presenting that because that helps explain. Makey, which is something Jane mentioned but didn't show, and then any of the stuff off csunplugged.com. So where do you begin with something like casual coding? Well, you just sort of go with it, really. It's up to you. So don't worry if your knowledge is quite low. Let the children explore, and you will learn from watching them. They will find out stuff that will then teach you. You don't need to be an expert. It's supposed to be casual, and like I said, good for wet play times and any time when you can just get that computer on and just give them that time. It develops the skills of problem solving and abstraction and many of the other core skills involved in the programming which the children will use later on. And what I also thought was quite good was that because you're not directly teaching them, when it comes to actually teaching properly, you're not going to have too many children that are suddenly so expert that you've then got to push them higher, which means the next year group has to push them higher. Obviously we want to push children as far as we can, but we also don't want to take them, how to word this I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is, I need to finish. We don't want to make them super experts so early, because otherwise the teachers who already find it hard enough to teach it are going to find it incredibly hard as they get older. And just really quickly, don't throw the seagull at me. Cost is obviously a big issue. Look out for opportunities to get free tech. Children's toys, a lot of them are programmable, Connect, Lego, things like that. And Raspberry Pi regularly offering free Pis, especially if you attend Hour of Code events and things like that, like I did earlier this year with Neil and Genevieve, which was really good. And yeah, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Any questions from anybody? Yeah, all right. Like saying the unpresented wasn't here, somebody was talking earlier about where's the algorithm. I mean, I'm delighted to hear what you're doing. I learned that way too. But does that work for all students? Do they need to be developing more formal algorithmic skills, or will they find them out as well?
Yes, I agree. When I listened to Jane, I was thinking, oh God, this contradicts my presentation entirely. Yes, I agree that, where is the algorithm? I think through the discovery, they're going to learn a lot of stuff which will actually help them when they do get onto that quite formalised teaching of what an algorithm is and things like that. And the hope is that as the older children are exploring, they should be now in that mindset to think of the algorithm as they're making. I'm using it with year 3 at the moment, so still quite young. At the moment, they've had no programming experience except for maybe control devices in year 2 and year 1. and so what they're doing is sort of getting a flavour for it in some ways. But I totally agree, there is obviously scope to adapt.
Well, I don't want to take you too far down that route. I remember the penny dropping when I was looking at a code. I had no background in programming at all. I suddenly saw what a loop was. And there was a wonderful moment of discovery, just like some of the other moments in my childhood. And I think those are really important moments to engage kids. So we don't want to necessarily discipline them too early. Let's allow them to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think will make the best balance. Bit of a both. Good. Thank you.
Thank you for that question as well. Any more questions? No? Thank you. I just had a really surreal experience. I decided to watch the feed whilst listening to Will. And there's like a 20-second delay. It's quite bizarre. It's a good feed, just watch it. It's interesting. Yeah. I like to stimulate all my senses at the same time. Yeah, it'll kick in a minute. That's not at the bottom, is it?
No.
I love Windows. It just tells you stuff you don't need to know, doesn't it? Are you sure? Yes, I'm positive. Is it? Thank you. Right.
Is it? So I've got a PC at home. Is it these buttons?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Brilliant. I don't know how well this will follow on from what... Well, actually, I think it will follow on very well from what you've just said. I've no idea how it'll fit into the bigger picture of what you've been talking about, because sadly I got here rather late. There's not a lot of ed tech content in what I'm going to say, but I think there's a lot of your kind of ideas that come into it. There's a bit of ed tech at the end, though. So I want to tell you about the best reward system ever. And it was one that I learned years ago when I was working in London with some really, really difficult kids. It didn't involve marbles in jars or house points or any other kind of points. It didn't involve certificates, teachers' awards or anything like that, or stars of the week badges, or golden time stars, or whatever they're all about. In fact, I worked in a school in London where the head teacher banned all that kind of stuff. So it was a very different kind of a system. When I tell people that now, they cannot believe it, because we are so reliant on these kinds of systems. And so I'm going to try and tell you what that system was all about in just a few minutes I've got before I get a seagull thrown at me. In his book, David Perkins' book called Making Learning Whole, he talks about how a lot of what goes on in our schools is a bit like batting practice, but without the context of the real game in which you can put the skills. And I think he's right. Teachers teach kids skills because those skills are on the curriculum, in the hope that, one day those skills will be useful. In fact, that's what they try and persuade the kids. These skills will be useful one day. Learning to these kind of writing skills, or these kind of tech skills maybe, or math skills. It's good to do them now because it will matter one day. They'll be useful when you get a job. But kids don't operate sometime in the future. What's brilliant about kids is they operate in the here and now. And so for a lot of kids, that really doesn't work. And the whole game, putting batting practice in the whole game of cricket is where it becomes fun, where it makes sense, where you get the whole point of why you're doing it in the first place. So let me give you a really tangible example of how I often come across that in classrooms. This is a worksheet that was put together by a teacher whose class had been playing with a loom. They'd done some research around the Saxons and how the Saxons made their clothes, and they'd put together a replica Saxon loom. And after this research work, the teacher had on his schedule next that the kids needed to learn explanation text skills. And so he said, well, what they can do, I'll put that in the context of the loom, I'll give them this worksheet, jazz it up with some nerdy sort of disco dancer type people, and hopefully they'll be willing to just write about how the loom works. He needed to do that. He had that on his schedule. Explanation text was the next thing he needed to tick off. But for the kids, well, my feeling is that any self-respecting kid who receives a worksheet like that and who's asked to spend, half an hour writing about the Saxon loom, and at the same time being sure to separate the paragraphs and put question marks and commas in, and not forget the causal connector. I didn't know until a few months ago what a causal connector was. I learned to write reasonably well without needing to know. Anyway, I think any self-respecting kid with any nerve will begin to rattle the cage at that point and crawl up walls. A lot of them will instead just kind of close down. What he could have done instead was to put that learning in the context of the real game. He could have thought about what real historians do. Real historians put on exhibitions, publish books, make documentaries. And there's no reason why kids can't do what real historians or real mathematicians or real technology people do. They'll do it within the junior model, a bit like Junior Scrabble. You don't have to do the full-blown adult version. So those kids could have made a simple documentary. They could have had their loom, they could have got themselves this is the EdTech bit. They could have got themselves a camera, they could have got themselves some software, they could have got themselves a laptop and made a really simple documentary about the loom, how it works. And in order for the teacher to tick the boxes, to be sure that he's getting through the detail of what he has to get through, it's what his agenda, he has to do it, it's his job. He can ask them to write a script. Actually, the kids will get the point of writing a script. You need a script. If you're going to make a good documentary that's going to be seen by a wider audience, that's going to be playing on a loop perhaps outside your classroom, you want it to be really, really good. So they'll get the point of writing the script. It matters. And they'll want to make the script really good. The causal connectors will be necessary because actually without them the script won't make sense. It matters that the whole thing makes sense. It matters that it's really high quality. And those kids engage with the project of making a documentary, working as a team, will also be doing so much more. They'll be collaborating, they'll be problem solving, they'll be delegating different parts of the job to subgroups so that they can work together. There'll be so much more going on as well as the causal connectors, the commas and the question marks. So I think that my head teacher was right to ban all that extrinsic reward all those years ago. She was ahead of her time. In fact, people have still not looked at the evidence. The evidence has been around, you probably can't see the date, 1973. We've known for a long time that short-term fixes don't work. They coerce naughty kids into behaving themselves. They compensate the well-behaved kids for putting up with the tedium, but they're not long-term solutions. She knew, and I know from years and years of experience of working like this, that the best reward system ever is the reward of learning that engages us right now. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I'll write down 20 at the same time. I will. Are there any questions for the team?
Tweet me if you have questions. Tweet me if you have questions.
So what do you actually do?
I actually was a primary teacher for 12 years. I was a head teacher for 5 years, and now I work in schools trying to support teachers to work like this. So I ran a school for 5 years that was outside the mainstream. It was a bit like a free school, but ahead of its time. I'm not especially into free schools, I'm into state schools, but it was a brilliant place to learn how to devise a curriculum that was really led by curiosity and imagination. And so I was also a head teacher who banned any kind of reward or punishment systems. I asked my teachers that if the kids were misbehaving to look at the curriculum and to make that work be a better match for them. So I now work in schools running courses and offering training and talking to people about how to use the real world as your inspiration and how to get kids to collaborate and have dialogue in a way that really engages and excites them.
Fabulous.
Thank you. But do follow me on Twitter and ask me more questions, that would be great.
Thank you. Just to further extend the freakiness of watching the live feed whilst listening, I sat down on the live feed, I was still up here talking, which was even weirder. Right, we're going to go to Australia, aren't we? Yeah. Just going to give this back to Lizzie. I know, I normally do, but there's people watching, I thought someone might tell me off. Oh, I'm just going to put it out. Is Matt listening already? Hello Matt, can you hear us?
You've got to do call.
Video call.
Video. Sorry. That's okay, just switch to the video.
Yeah, switch to the video on the left. Do the camera out.
I am an ICT consultant. Hello Matt.
Good morning, how are you?
Excellent. Yeah, we're really good. How are you?
Awesome, and you can hear me as well, that's always a good sign.
We...
Can you hear me?
We can hear you really well. We can see a still picture of it, but nothing's moving.
You know what, that might be a better thing, but look, I'll turn the video on anyway.
Well done.
There we go.
Well done. Excellent. Looking good. Okay, over to you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, how are you going? It's 6 a.m. here in Sydney, and so, forgive me if I sort of fall off my chair and I'm asleep. But what I thought I'd talk about, thanks to Anna and thanks to everyone for inviting me as well. It's really cool to be back in Brighton, virtually at least. I was lucky enough to come over to the UK a couple of years ago and visit a few towns and places looking at how you guys do TeachMeets, because they were sort of born there. And I'm really happy to say that TeachMeets are really taking off in Australia. In Sydney, we've had probably over about 60 events over the last couple of years alone. And more and more people are just taking on the model and running with it. So, we've got TeachMeet Western Australia, funnily enough, in the last year have had over 40 events just there in the last year because they just love the model. So I'm really, really happy to be part of a TeachMeet. And this is probably chewing up part of my 7 minutes, so I'm just going to get straight onto my idea. And I just wanted to talk about, funnily enough, global connections through Skype and whatever tool you want to use. I don't really care about the tools that kids use, teachers use to be able to do what they want. As a history teacher, I like getting the kids to ask questions. I like getting the kids to think. I like getting the kids to analyse stuff and question things and be critical. So I really don't care about the technology they use to be able to get there. And I think that's something I'm constantly in my role as e-learning coordinator trying to get teachers away from thinking about the tool and trying to think about the learning. But I'm sure people have said that already, so I'm just reinforcing that idea. But the two little stories I'd like to share with you are about a little story about a connection with Ireland and a story about a connection with the USA that I've had over the last year or two. And the first story is about Ireland. And so just randomly through Twitter one day, I got a little tweet that said, hi Matt, would love to chat. That's pretty much all it said. And so we ended up having a chat about how we could possibly connect classes. It was a small school in County Cork, and my school was was a Catholic independent school based on the Brigidine tradition, so the tradition of St Bridget. Brigidine nuns came over to Australia and started up several schools, especially in New South Wales. So there was a common focus there, there was a common theme, and so we decided to pick up on that and run with it. And so we did a combined website, an informative website for kids. Their kids designed part of the website, our kids designed another part of the website. We did little videos showing each other what, the Brigidine tradition was like in Ireland, what it was like in Australia. They pretty much got to choose whatever they wanted to do, so long as it sort of fit the various themes that we'd agreed upon. And the end result is a wonderful website that actually ended up winning an award over in Ireland for young people and innovation, because basically they drove the project. And it was wonderful to have that kind of recognition for the kids over there. And the kids were thrilled back here when sort of 6 months after the project there was some sort of ongoing connection with the class as well. So that was a really cool connection to have globally, and I think that's something that shows, that demonstrates that whilst it's not easy to do something like that, it does take a bit of pushing from the teachers and a bit of organisation from the teachers. It is something well worth doing. It's really valuable. The kids could have done a worksheet on St Bridget in both ends. They could have kept their eyes definitely in the classroom, but they've now sort of opened their eyes up a little bit more. And kids still, I'm not at my previous school. There's an obvious statement for 6 a.m. But the kids still, whenever I see them in that's my 7th alarm to make sure I wake up. The kids still, if I ever go past, or if I see them at the shops or something like that, they're still saying, how's the kids, how are the Irish kids? They sort of say that and I forget. And they have to remind me we did a project with them. But that's the first one. And the second one is a connection with the USA. Now, this happened through SkypeForEducators.com. I don't know if you've heard of that website, SkypeForEducators.com. But essentially you can register. I think still, I haven't checked the website in the last few months, but you can register your name, register your school, register what you're interested in at SkypeForEducators.com, and basically pick and choose whether you wanted to do projects with each other. And so I got a little email from a guy in rural Pennsylvania, it's about 6 hours west of New York, if that gives you any kind of geographical reading. And his name's Scott. He's a middle to high school history teacher. And so we got our heads together and thought, what could we possibly do? Now, someone's watching over it, because basically he had a Year 8 history class where they studied colonial history. I had a Year 8 class where we studied contact and colonisation, and we just both happened to be studying it at the same time. And so, call it what you like, but it was pretty much fate that we were to talk about a project at that time with that particular class, and for that purpose. So we basically got together, and again, we were thinking, what kind of product can the kids put together that they can both see, that they can both work on? And so they just got together and did wikis in groups. Now, his kids sort of got into about 4 groups, my kids got into about 4 or 5 groups, and what we did was we took the other nation's history and several key issues of the other country's history. So my kids did US history, and his kids did the Australian experience, and talked about how your lovely ancestors and mine came to the various countries and the process of contact and colonisation there. So we were actually studying a completely different history to what the syllabus said. But by doing the project, we actually learned more than the syllabus said, and were able to apply that thinking and knowledge to different contexts, not just me standing up saying, now, the British arrived in this year and then blah, 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 blah. Like, that would have been incredibly boring for the kids based on my own experience. So this actually opened their eyes to the fact that not only, sort of historically syllabus and curriculum speaking, that the British did do what they did in a particular way, but it actually opened their eyes to the fact that, oh, hang on, there are other countries around the world, and I think that was more prevalent on the American side too, that other countries exist. Sorry to any Americans in the audience. But the experience was quite similar and yet different in some ways as well. So that was sort of the first project we did, but since then he and I have both Skyped into each other's classes just randomly at sort of 4 a.m. or 3 p.m. or whenever it happened to be. He team taught with me a lesson on the Cold War for my Year 12s last year, which was really, really cool. It was a bit freaked the kids out completely because I didn't tell them. And so there was just this big American face on the screen at the front of the room and a webcam pointed at them, which they didn't notice. And then we both just started speaking, and it was the best experience I've ever had. Not that I don't have wonderful teachers on staff at my new school, but it was just something cool that the kids could see as well. And he's just so knowledgeable about that stuff. So it was really cool to be able to Skype him like that. And so by now we've done 3 different projects over the course of the last 2 years, both at my previous school and at my new school that I arrived at the start of last year. And so we've done, combined wikis. Actually, what we did was we changed for the most recent one from being sort of, each school does their own thing, to actually saying that the groups are going to work together. So we took 2 kids from my new school and 2 kids from his school and paired them or grouped them up so that they were actually a combined international group. So we had 7 different groups, all mixed, nations, a little mini UN, and they actually presented via Skype and also in person this weird blended kind of presentation where they each had a slide just to know who was speaking, and they presented to us live. And so we had principals, and we had, I think there was a local member of the, I can't remember whether they call it Parliament in Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure they do. But anyway, whoever it was, a local politician, and really some really interested people from my school as well, come along and see these kids actually having to negotiate what they were going to say, when they were going to say it, what information was going to be on the slide, what sources were going to be on the slide, and all that sort of thing. So that was a really, really cool spin on the project where they actually had to talk to each other this time. The kids actually had to collaborate truly, not just collaborate within each of the countries, but actually collaborate overseas as well. And they still chat to each other, and they Skype and that sort of stuff. So there were some really good friendships, and 2 kids that are going to do exchange now over to America thanks to that. So there's some real impact and real value of those experiences. And the last thing I wanted to say, because I'm probably pushing my time and probably over it, is that there are some real impacts of this. And Scott and I, the teacher in Pennsylvania, have chatted many, many times, of course, over Skype and kept in touch. to the point where in January this year, when I was lucky enough to get over to New York and Washington and things, he drove that 6 hours to New York, and we spent the weekend together after the New Year, and we got to hang out and do all this nerdy historical stuff as we went around New York for a weekend. So, these projects can have a real impact, and it's definitely made me a better teacher, having to consider multiple syllabuses and break out of that, state-based thinking and nation-based thinking about history. So, those are my stories. And if you ever want to connect, and if you've ever got friends who want to connect about history and anything, I'm more than happy to. So, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. That was really good. I don't know if you know, but if you run over your time, we throw a seagull normally. Couldn't quite throw it that far, but did enjoy listening to you anyway. So thank you. Are there any questions for Matt? Yes. How do we get hold of you? Can we come for a visit?
Oh, yes. From difficult backgrounds who have an opportunity that they wouldn't be able to take up without our help. And we also run a program, which is the connection here. We run a program in schools based around social entrepreneurship, where we are making global connections. But we're making global connections within the developed world. So we are connecting a group of young people in a local school, usually working in Year 9, and we connect them up with a community in a developing country through a charity. And then we bring them a business partner from the local community to mentor them in entrepreneurial skills. So for a year they work together as a school, a charity and a business partner to create a project based around fundraising, advocacy and problem solving. We've been piloting this for the last 4 years. We've been working in Varndine School, we work in Blackington Mill and Shoreham Academy, but mostly we've been in Varndine for 4 years. It's been a very, very successful project. We've had connections with Ghana, connections with Tanzania, connections with Peru, and it's kind of, as Matt was saying, it's that fantastic opportunity to communicate direct with young people in very different situations in another country and create something that is having a measurable impact in their lives. So far, because we haven't had the technology and we haven't been able to kind of set it up properly, it's been very much about fundraising and sending money over. But we're developing a platform, a digital platform, an app to make that communication much more direct so that we can really engage the young people in the developing country as much as we are doing the young people here. And we're running on Basecamp at the moment, and that might be a platform that we continue to build on. But so if you want to know more about that, we really want to make more connections in local schools. We have money to give, and we have this project that we want to spread. So if you want to come and speak to me, then do. Oh, we have an event tomorrow night at Star Hub. Look on our website.
Thank you. Okay, the last two presentations are from Mark from Works.
So, can I try the 17?
Yeah.
Basecamp. Yeah.
Basecamp is currently free for teachers.
Yeah.
We've started using that this week. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good. So I encourage you to check it out.
Thank you.
Enjoy it so far. You're saying no?
Yeah, I'm shaking my head.
Oh, okay.
Trello is awesome.
Someone said that to me today. Okay.
Yeah, that's free, and it was via Twitter as well.
Brilliant.
And it's
Okay.
so easy to use.
Also, Big Tent, that's another one.
Fine.
The last bit is going to be, I suppose it's cheating a little bit from both of us, because we're actually going to talk about things that we've seen at other TeachMeets that we thought were really worthy to pass on. So I'm going to go last with something that really blew my mind, and I'll hand you over.
Two.
I only got shown how to work this today. Just bear with me there. Oh, that one? Yeah.
Click blue bar at the bottom all the way to the left.
Got it. I only learned how to build it, not actually how to play it, work it. I'm Mark, and I'm literally going to take 2 minutes of your time to pass some really interesting things on that I learned at TeachMeet Pompey last week. I don't know whether anyone heard about TeachMeet Pompey, but they were boasting a lot about their TeachMeet being on HMS Illustrious.
So those of you that were jealous, you don't need to be, because actually it got called away at the last minute to wherever warships get called away to, so actually we went to the local Laser Quest instead. The other thing is they didn't have any cold beer, and the snacks here are much better. Okay? Okay, so go. First of all, Skype Classroom. Okay, someone else just talked about it. It's incredible. Check it out. It enables you to create links with other classrooms throughout the world, but it also allows you to find speakers that you think might be interesting. How many times you've met people who thought, I'd love to bring that person into my classroom, and then thought, oh God, that would be really, really hard. Skype will allow you to do this, okay? Also, virtual field trips. You could take your class potentially anywhere, okay? The two teachers that spoke about, the first one, he actually organised a virtual dance-off with another school in America live, okay? Incredible. The other teacher brought in an ex-Winter Olympian to talk about their experiences with the class, all centred around, obviously, the recent Winter Olympics in Sochi. Google Docs, I'm sure you've all heard of it, or a lot of you probably have, being techie people. I thought it was really, really interesting. They allow you to be able to embed videos into the document. You can then create questions based around that video. You can share it with your pupils, okay? But then, obviously, all this data is then collated into a spreadsheet for very, very easy marking. Okay, apparently as well, and this person didn't mention it, but I learned about it today, you can also link it with something called Flubru, which will actually mark it for you, send the results to the children and yourself. So you don't really have to do anything. It sounds brilliant. Chatty registers, mega, mega simple, okay? This teacher just poses questions alongside their register. So, for example, with her form tutor group in the afternoon, she basically obviously gets them to say their names so she knows that they're there, but also they have to say one thing that they've learnt that morning. So obviously it's reinforcing what they've learned, but it's also sharing what they've learnt with the rest of their class. Really simple on here. Join Me, it's an app on the iPad. Basically, it will mirror the whiteboard, okay? The teacher that talked about it said that it completely transformed her classrooms for visually impaired pupils that she worked with. That's it. Mega simple. I hope you've got an idea from that.
Okay, Prezi is a popular one tonight. Now for my Prezi. Well, it's not actually mine, it's somebody else's. Okay, I've been talking to this teacher. Her name's Beth Collins. I don't know which school she works at. It's a school in West Sussex, because she stopped tweeting me last night for some reason. I don't know why, stalking or something. But I was at this, just before Christmas, I was at this TeachMeet, and it was interesting to go out there to see the different ways they're done. This was one of the things that I thought was really scalable, could be used by lots of different people. It was used, well, let me run the presentation first and I'll show you. Keep your fingers crossed for the videos as well. Right. Okay, so basically it's based around mental maths and music. You can read it. She did it with the Year 6 class. Really to get them to do their homework. They finished their SATs and they were quite lively. So it was based around the Quizma's Quiz Night show. Do you remember? That was just on Channel 4. And there was a, let's see if this works, there was a mental maths song sung to a popular tune or ditty.
Question 6, Nick, is a maths question.
Oh no.
And this week it comes from Elijah Doolittle.
Hi Chris, hi everybody. Here's my mathematical question. It's time for my maths test. Who is the smartest? Who's gonna be the best? If you can't do this, then I'll be unimpressed. I was taught this stuff when I was 10 years old, so take 12 minus 8. Now 5, 10, then calculate. When you'll get it, you multiplicate.
Okay, just get the general idea, really. And her class were really enthused by this. And she did, the reason she stopped talking to me yesterday was because she promised to send me loads more videos that her class had done. And I don't think she could find them. I think she was a bit upset. So I did manage to find one of them that was created by someone in her class. I've worked it out, with a bit of paper obviously. It's quite hard to listen to, but when I play it, see if you can work out what the answer is. Are you ready? They're quite shy as well, they don't see their
When
hands.
I stormed on me, and you bet I felt it. I find it really cool when I divide and multiply, yeah. And so I've got a sum. Try not to get it wrong now. So we'll start with 2, and then we'll add 48, then divide it by 5, and then we'll take away 7. I hope you're keeping up. Let's do some maths and rock, yeah. Now multiply by 6, then add 52, subtract a 4. What have you? There's no need to hesitate, 'cause maths is great. Just take your time, you'll be just fine.
As an educator, for me, it kind of tapped into those things about that we all hear about, you know, making sure that kids' stuff is contextual and it's meaningful to them and they've controlled the learning. I love that, and who got goosebumps as well? I get goosebumps every single time I listen to it. Yeah, it's really, really good. So, let's have some answers, please. Let's call out some numbers. What do you think it was? 64? 66? Anybody? You weren't just swayed by what they were saying, were you? No. Anything else?
Like 4 away from 70.
It was 66, so well done. So I'd like to say thank you. I don't know, Beth might be listening. I'd say thank you to Beth for letting me do this. If she does let me pass on her details, we'll make sure we put them on the site as well so you can contact her. But that's a really good example of something that I really, really loved when I saw it. So thank you very much. That is pretty much the end of the evening. I want to say thank you to all of you.
Can I just make
of course, yeah.
a quick comment about this?
Yeah.
This is something I've been involved in the past, and it's a thing called maths raps, which is basically the same idea, but setting these things to kind of rapping, which for some kids is actually easier for them to do if they're not confident about their voices than actually singing a song as such.
Yeah, there used to be a product as well, if I can say it, called Percy Parker, which was the most annoying songs in the world, done to times tables. But because they're annoying, they stick in your head and you learn them. And there's little videos, and so that whole music thing with kids is amazing. Well, anyone can tap into. I think music's the key with that. And you know, as well as us listening to that, it was emotional. We got goosebumps, and actually that was, I think that's quite special, really. So, thank you. Yeah.
I'm actually an opera singer, and I do projects in developing countries using, and particularly with special needs, using music. So music is a fantastic tool to help with cognition and motor skills and learning across all kinds of levels.
Yeah, I love it, and that's what I wanted to talk. I mean, I presented this last week as well at a maths meet that we did, and they had the same reaction from the people in there. Everyone got goosebumps. Everyone was really impressed. It's a shame, but it can spoil it, that the child didn't feel brave enough to actually let us see them. But I'm quite glad they didn't, because I would have had to get those signed documents to show it to you in the first place. So it was quite good.